r/ask Reddit. What's a form of mental abuse that no one really talks about? A partner or friend who gives detailed heartfelt apologies but continues to do the same old harmful stuff. Like they have figured out how to humble themselves as a weapon and have gotten really good at thorough apologies but seem to make zero effort to change their behavior. There's a quote from Community that always stuck in my mind, despite it being a comedy show and not that serious, where Jeff says, "Don't feel bad about it now. Feel bad about it before you do it, and then don't do it." I feel it sums this up perfectly. This makes me think of yet another quote that applies here from BoJack Horseman, and admittedly, I think I needed to hear it for myself back then, as it helped me become a better person. You can't keep doing shitty things and then feeling bad about yourself as if that makes it okay. You need to be better. I don't know how is it called, but I never had nice explanation when I didn't understand something. I would get yelled at, called names, or sometimes got just silent treatment. I still get nauseous at work when I have to ask for help when I don't understand something or I'm not sure how to do it. My parents were like this. I never asked for help at university because I didn't want people to think I was stupid. It took me 6 years to get a 4-year degree. Same. The few times I did ask, I was impressed how helpful everyone was, but it was still a huge struggle to ask the next time. Loudly drawing attention to someone stepping outside their comfort zone. Look, WHO's leaving her room. Why are you wearing a dress? WHO, are you? Are you reading a book? A real book? How to make sure your kid thinks they're never allowed to explore or change anything about themselves 101. This isn't exactly the same, but my mom would, and still does, make fun of me whenever I have emotional reactions to things, so I just don't anymore. For example, or, "Are you crying now? Did I make you sad? Poor you." Yeah, I have also learned that love is a form of violence and emotional expression is an invitation for humiliation and abuse. I'm almost 40 but I still have no idea who I am because I fear that if I like or want something it will be weaponized and used against me. I live alone and have few friends, so it's silly, but that's what trauma looks like. Edit. This blew up. Thanks for the awards. If you have mommy issues, I can recommend a visit to subreddit mob for Ramanute. Excessive passive aggressiveness. It's not quite bullying, but it is. It's not quite rude, but it is. It's easily dismissed as nothing, but years and years of it is so mentally and emotionally exhausting. A response to this I really love that I learned from a relative with a mother like this is taking whatever they say do as completely factual and not doing the emotional labor of extrapolating what they really mean. Basically, it forced her to be direct and stop with the backhanded insults and realize she was intentionally being rude. It doesn't work in every situation but brings my relative more peace of mind dealing with her. For example, her complaining he never does enough for her while he's bringing her food. "Finally I get to see you." Him. "Yes. It's nice to see you after I've had such a busy week." Her. Hope this helps. Edit, because apparently using asterisk turns it into unreadable italics. I have legit just started doing this with mom. She says shitty things expecting a certain response and I just don't give it to her. I made a rule for myself to stop doing things for her unless she asks me because she orders me around like a maid or something. I'm not gonna spend my energy trying to figure out why you're treating me this way. I'm just going to stop caring. Neglect. People always talk about abuse, but neglect, as humorous as it may sound, gets neglected. When I was a teenager I would regularly go missing for days. I'd purposely dip out and go to friends' houses with a packed bag and tell their parents my mom said it was okay for me to stay for a week. My friends' parents must have understood no one cared about me at home and would oblige me and let me stay. I'd return home after a few days and see if anyone knew I was gone. After asking if they knew I wasn't home, I'd always get to know. "You were out? Oh well, that's nice." Once I left for 10 days. I snuck back in that time thinking they have to know I wasn't home and I would be in trouble. I came in through the back door and could clearly hear my mom and stepdad watching TV and enjoying themselves. I break it to them that I wasn't home for 10 days after questioning them in regards of whether they noticed I was gone. They tell me, "We thought you were in your room." I was 16 at the time. Mine were medically neglectful. I can't have kids now because of a reproductive disorder that should have been treated when I was a teenager. I also spent over $7,000 in the last 5 years just trying to keep my teeth in my mouth because my parents couldn't be bothered to provide toothbrushes or take us to the dentist even once. I hope you have people who care about you now. Luckily my school made us go to the dentist for checkups, and that's how they noticed my teeth were all ducked up, and my mom had no choice but to take me to the appointments. They're free in my country, but with everything else it was always homeopathy, or she just decided what was wrong with me once my neck got so stiff I couldn't move my head for 3 days and she didn't take me to a doctor. I dislocated my knee and she didn't take me to the doctor. She decided I must be lactose intolerant, so I couldn't have milk products for years without taking me to get an allergy test or anything. Thank goodness I broke my arm in school and they had to take me. If it had happened at home I honestly think she wouldn't have taken me. All doctor's appointments are almost free in my country, so money or insurance wasn't the issues. She just didn't want it. Preventing someone from sleeping. This was done to me by a former abuser and it nearly drove me to kill one of us. Edit. This seems to have struck a nerve with a lot of people. In my case I've found the subs r/race/ed b narcissists and r/race/ed b borderlines helpful. Open bracket. Not all BP behaviors are abusive BTW. Just putting that out there. I don't condone murder obviously, but sometimes going no contact is the way to go. My DMs are open if anyone needs to vent. I sleep weird hours, but I'm here XX. I came here to say this. Growing up with an alcoholic parent was pretty awful, but the worst part was when they'd get blackout drunk and burst into your room in the middle of the night and just start yelling at you. They'd just stand in my doorway and ramble for hours, forcing me to stay awake. They'd leave, and then come back and pick up again. I have sleep issues to this day. I had the opposite situation. My parents made all 5 of us go to bed at 7, because they were done with us. Have been suffering from insomnia since 5 years old and I'm 56 now. Not allowing children to make choices. I was raised by parents who dictated most decisions. Making good choices is a necessary skill. I think children raised this way do not develop a sense of autonomy. I have a terrible time making decisions, and I don't care about many things like color choices, food, recreation, and more important life choices like partners and occupations. It is harder to find pleasure in life when choices are based on what you dislike the least. I had a friend in college that I drove to the supermarket. She'd take forever to pick things out, like Pop-Tarts. So many options and she had no idea how to handle it. She didn't have any food allergies or any diet restrictions. She also panicked the first couple times I left her to it and went to another aisle without her. I'm in this photo and I don't like it. Did your friend ever find a way to deal with it? Not allowing someone the time and space to cool down or collect their thoughts when an issue is brought up. Had a spouse follow me through the house until the conclusion he found acceptable was reached. Do you have any way to deal with this? I'm sorry for asking, but I just realized my mom does this to me. It never ended until he passed from a medical condition. I would usually end up saying yes dear or pretending to agree just to get away, and I would try to process what I could. Constantly undermining someone or second guessing someone. My brother does this on a regular basis about big, small or totally irrelevant stuff. At first I didn't think much of it, but after a long time it started to make me not be able to make decisions properly because I was always told my decisions were wrong. It took a lot of time to come to the conclusion that even if my decisions are wrong, they're my decisions and I'm learning from my own mistakes. I'm dealing with the long-lasting fallout from this. Years of having every one of my behaviors examined, analyzed and corrected under the guise of growing and learning skills has destroyed my self-confidence. I try to improve, but nothing felt like a success to then. I was never trying hard enough. I never understood enough. Hours-long fights about how I misuse language, how I don't do or say the right thing, or if I say I'm hurt by something they did, or their behavior towards me, then I'm attacking them. I'm afraid that I'm learning to kill my reactivity to things, so things don't feel as genuine anymore. I often have breakdowns and feel like I can't do anything right, like I'm always making the wrong decision somehow, and I can't talk about anything with them without being terrified of using the wrong word or framing things incorrectly. Oh god, this. I don't need emotional support and I don't need anyone to cheer for me. I know better than to expect all that. All I need is for the constant discouragement to end. Being brought up by parents who think that if you're fed, watered and clothed, that's their responsibilities completed. Or worse, thinking that you owe them for doing the bare minimum of keeping you alive. Recently, I learned that one of my students has a mother who takes this to the extreme. She documents every expense her daughter has cost her and expects her to reimburse her as soon as she graduates university. My student is 10 years old. We're talking about everything from food, clothing, expensive schooling, from birth up until what'll be her early 20s. She's also incredibly controlling. For example, our school gave students some gifts for Chinese New Year. They were allowed to choose one from a list, but her mother called the school to make sure my student got the item her mother wanted her to have, an ordinary pencil case, over what she chose, a toy. Nobody at my school has any idea as to what we can do to help this girl. I just hope she can get therapy and cut ties as soon as she is old enough. Minimizing from others who support the abuser. They were only teasing, you need a thicker skin, you should just ignore. Or when they blame you more for your reaction than they do from the actual person who did the behavior. You know, if you didn't react that way. My parents did this when my brother bullied me. Then when he beat me up they didn't believe me and made me apologize to him. A few years later he became a meth addict and turned his abuse on them. Thankfully he's clean now and a much better person. Getting rid of your stuff without asking. Filming you without asking. Going through your phone and belongings without asking. Nothing ducks up your trust more than your privacy constantly being invaded. Thousands of pictures, gone. All my social media, gone. Almost all my contacts, gone. My jacket I got for Christmas, gone. All without my knowledge or permission. Edit. My ex did all of this shit. My parents are lovely and would never do such awful things. My mom used to do this all the time, going through my stuff and throwing things out, whether it was stuff or clothes, and always on trash day, so when I got home from school there was no salvaging any of it. Edited to add, one of the things that makes me sad to this day, is when she threw away a pair of jeans. When I was in the 9th grade, I was never hip, was wearing old lady clothes because those stores was the only place my mom would take me. Got bullied every single day, and these jeans were cool. They made me feel like was somewhat the same as the other kids. A cool brand, a bit too long and worn at the bottom seam, just the way they should be, and she tossed them. It's almost 30 years ago and I remember it vividly. I know it may seem small stuff compared to some of your stories, but it was one of those times where I felt really helpless about being controlled in every aspect of my life. I'm so sorry to hear your stories as well. I feel your pain. You're not alone. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. When you finally crack, as you should since you are literally being tortured, they paint you as the crazy one. They also cut you in private, until they know you are at your breaking point. Then do something seemingly innocuous in public to cause you to explode. Some people are really good at it. My mother was very good at it, much to my mother-in-law's chagrin. My mill is an idiot compared to my mother, so her attempts just look stupid and amateurish to me. When you finally crack, as you should since you are literally being tortured, they paint you as the crazy one. This is called reactive abuse, when the victim retaliates or lashes out and the abuser then acts like the victim is the abuser. Reactive abuse is supported by the school system. They support bullies and boys will be boys, along with the female equivalent, then punish their victims when they try to defend themselves. Telling a child to keep their passions to themselves. I was told to keep my interests to myself as a child, and people wouldn't want to be my friends because my interests were nerdy. It's one thing to be made fun of for your interests by your peers, but it's way worse when it comes from your parents. Now that I'm an adult, I have much better friendships because I no longer feel like I have to put on a vanilla mask for everyone. Literally whole my life I was taught to just keep everything to myself and I made no friends. LMAO. Nerds rule the world. Duck those who kept you from achieving greatness. Like for instance, my hands. You might think they are small, but what you believe is false. My hands tell a story of greatness. Definitely guilt tripping. Both of my exes used to take everything I did wrong as a personal attack and used it to try to make me feel guilty. I want to see my best friend instead of them today. Oh, you must not love me. I didn't get the right order from Starbucks. You must not care enough to remember the right order. Even worse is when I'm mad at something they did and they use me being mad to guilt trip me, leading to me having to apologize for something they did. I see it all the time and nobody calls people out for doing this, but it really infuriates me. I was going to say this one as well. Oh, you want to go do something with your friend? That makes me so sad. I'm going to be lonely all day while you're out having fun. I hate guilt trips. When someone consistently undermines your interests and goals and mocks you for them. Because of that, my entire life I would never tell anyone my goals and passions. I severely underestimate myself in everything, and so I think that everyone else sees me that way and then they're going to mock me. Any kind of fear-based parenting. I remember how you made me feel when I was small and vulnerable. I was afraid. No, you didn't hit me that hard, but that's by adult standards. To me you were a giant 3 times my size. If a child is afraid of you, they won't trust you, ever. To this day I don't trust my father and fear him. Both my parents used to hit us pretty hard for bad behavior. My mom at least would tell you what you did wrong and how many times she was gonna hit you. Then she'd go away and calm down and then hit us with a wooden ladle. Never more than she promised, and at least you could see that she wasn't hitting you to get rid of her frustrations. My dad, on the other hand, would just use his belt or his hands, but he would just turn up out of nowhere and unleash hell fury. He did it out of anger and to get rid of that anger. I once told him this at a therapist when I was an adult and he dismissed it, saying that my mom hit us more so it couldn't have been that bad. To this day I don't trust my father and fear him. I am 30 years old, 6 feet tall and fought in Afghanistan. My mother is 56 and 5 feet 4. To this day, if she raises her hand unexpectedly around me, I flinch like I'm 8 years old and about to get hit. Don't hit your kids. Folks, it might seem like just a little tap to you, but it's far more to them. You'll leave lasting damage, and it won't be physical damage. Social exclusion. Obviously no one should be forced to talk to others and involve them in activities, but oftentimes it's done maliciously. I've seen it happen both in school and in the workplace. Families too. Sometimes an abuser will get the rest of the family to ostracize their victim. Happened to me and my husband just because we dared to stand up to our respective abusers. Mom used to do this. Would literally get my whole family in the car after telling me to do a detailed project for her, and they would go out to get ice cream, go to the park, go to dinner / go visit a relative. This was before cell phones, so it's not like I could say anything. I remember one time, they went out. I had no clue they even left. I was looking around for everyone but they were gone. Then I saw the van was gone. 6 hours later they came back from apple picking with a picnic and a trip to the beach. I was so confused the whole time, and hurt when they got back. I asked, why didn't you tell me you all were leaving? And I was told, well, I didn't think you would want to go. And then they wonder why I trust any of them, and mostly keep to myself. Financial abuse. I didn't even know it was a legitimate thing until recently. I wish more people recognized it as actual abuse. It's insidious and controlling and manipulative. Just because it's not physically painful or makes someone actually cry doesn't mean it isn't. Financial abuse would make me cry. Living with a narcissist and never knowing what will set them off. Did you say something in the wrong tone? Did you have a good day and want to talk about it? It's like walking on thin ice all of the time, and it's stressful because you never know what will set them off. That was my childhood thanks to my father. My sisters and I were video chatting last year and started talking about the tension level in our house increasing right before he'd get home from work. I realized I still feel that before my husband gets home. Like if I've had a lazy day on my day off, start running around like I've been doing stuff. Hubby couldn't give a shit what I've been doing. Just happy I've enjoyed my day off. And that it was because of growing up as we did. I had to step away from camera and cry for a minute. It's weird at 48 years old to have a mini breakdown from something that you haven't lived with for 30 years, but it's so ingrained it only takes a second to step back into it. Thankfully the realization has helped me to let go of some of it from when hubby comes in. Being dismissive and calling it positive thinking. Toxic positivity. Your negative emotions make me uncomfortable or cost too much time and effort to acknowledge. So I'm going to order you to be happy and get over it right immediately. You'll get over it. It could be worse. You know. You have it pretty good here at LexCorp. Just think positively. Smile. You'll feel better. Being guilted because my inevitable breakdown under stress is being a downer on everyone else's day or is wasting productivity at work does not, in fact, improve my outlook on life. Insisting that I just keep acting fun and happy and it will make me feel better and solve all my problems makes me a little deader on the inside. I've struggled a lot with some really bad mental fatigue and other symptoms in the last years. And one of the worst things was when someone wanted to be nice and make me feel better by just saying no. Think positive instead when I just needed them to be there for me and listen. It sucks. Invalidating people, especially kids. Kids with invisible disabilities can get a lot of that from the school system. Especially if it's undiagnosed, your genuine issues get constantly seen as laziness or unworthiness or being too sensitive. It's not like it goes away entirely as an adult either, but I've found that people tend to trust that you have valid reasons more easily. Especially because of their age. When you're chronically ill and someone keeps telling you to stop being selfish, or refuses to acknowledge it. My ex was the master of abandoning me during medical crisis. Got MRSA after a double mastectomy. He wanted to see the labs. He looked at the pus seeping out and said it didn't look infected. Was hemorrhaging internally. He needed to see the blood pouring out after I begged him on my hands and knees to take me to the hospital. Was DX with a rare tumor. He needed to see the medical file and took pictures of test results. He came to every doc up to supervise. I kept asking myself if what I was experiencing was true, even though I had empirical evidence. It was gaslighting to a deadly degree. Super glad he is an ex. Someone being a chameleon that shows you a horrible side but nobody else ever sees it. Then they think you're awful for tarnishing a great person if you ever mention it. My father, I suppose. The man was praised by everybody we knew. He was buddy with my doctors. To the world around. He was the nicest, hardest working, most good-natured fellow you'd ever meet. But in the privacy of home, he was an absolutely rancid person. Everyone talks about gaslighting. But what about lover bombing? A person too enthusiastically complimenting you and buttering you up like you're ducking bread is a classic form of manipulation and an extremely common tactic employed by groomers to use against teenagers. Putting you on a pedestal. You're not like anyone else. You're perfect. No one else could ever measure up to you. You're so special. Then they have to knock you off the minute you disappoint them in some minor way. How could you? You are like all the others. This is a major red flag for me now. My ex love bombed me, really threw me for a loop when she dumped me and took me months to realize how shitty of a person she actually was. Being part black myself. Black people tend to use mentally physically abuse as a form of discipline and is openly talked about and accepted, especially in the South. I don't understand how we will preach Black Lives Matter, saying keep your hands off me, or verbally attack others saying and playing the victim role, and then do the same at home to our own kids, but it's different. I don't get it that you can emotionally damage and physically assault your kids and then go on the phone and laugh about it to your other family members. And that's the honest truth that really needs to be brought up and addressed. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.